Hi, this is Caden, and I'm with Xanadu, and I just wanted to do a quick video because I think it'll be really helpful for you guys to kind of get a feel for what your grand float is and Xanadu's involvement, what you guys are hoping to achieve, some pictures on what that might be, what you started with, and how we're going to get there. So, first of all, congratulations. This float's pretty cool. I think it's going to end up really neat, and I think it's already become pretty important to a lot of people that have been stopping by as a community just because they find it really interesting. So, um, before I start on the float and the pictures and stuff like that, I wanted to give you a quick little background of like what is a Xanadu and why are we involved and what's going on here. So Simplot agreed to with We the People, which is a nonprofit organization in the city of Boise and outdoor event group to sponsor a grand float. So you guys own a grand float. You are tasked with delivering that float, and so it's yours. Xanadu is a both a nonprofit and a physical place organization that is community based. So we have a big shop, we have a lot of tools, we have a ton of people that are really skilled at building stuff. We've built stuff like this before. So our involvement is We the People and Outdoor Event Group approached us last year and said, hey, look, if we get these floats kind of involved, would you be willing to help with them? And we said, sure. Given the fact that we're have built a lot of this stuff before, we were eager to do it. It's one of those things that's really amazing to actually have an art piece that everybody can come together with and build on. And so that's the reason that we're doing it. Now, for clarity, we are not hired. We're not paid to deliver this. Xanadu is getting zero for the actual creation of these floats from the sponsors. So we're just here. There's no contractual obligation, that kind of thing. We're here strictly to make sure that the float that you own, and that you're delivering for 4th of July is, something that you find easy to accomplish. So you're not overwhelmed by it. And because we firmly believe in, making these things happen. Now, that said, Outdoor Event Group very generously did, out of kindness, because we're trying super hard to make this work, by donating our own time and our own loss and stuff like that. So they gave us $3,000 to Xanadu. So we did get a donation for that. That went towards our shop and specifically for some of our tool sets so that we could be prepared for and work on this with our metal shop and help you guys. You also did get a budget. So when you guys sponsored a float, there's a budget that came with it, and that budget is available to spend on making this work. And so it's not just in a vacuum, and we're certainly not paying for all of the stuff necessary. So hopefully, for clarity, that gives you an idea of how we're involved, what's going on. Now, that said, I want to emphasize that it is doable. I know that July 4th is around the corner. We were hoping for around 8 months to build. That would have given us a lot more time to organize our volunteers, get a lot of source material for donation, that kind of stuff. But it's something that just didn't come about for all three of the major float sponsors until a few months ago. And specifically, the train float, we've had about a month. So that's given our crews, our Xanadu crews, some time. As you look at what we started with, which is this big old sparkle train that you guys got. And from a previous float, this was from the 1990s in the River Parade. And so we were able to, with We the People, bought this float and got it to Simplot, got us involved. We were able to bring it over to Xanadu. So we orchestrated just getting it here and all the mechanics and requirements around that. We've also gone through it pretty extensively to see what is physically in need of repair, where things are at. And one of the major tasks was desparkling the train, because as you look on the left there, that's my stock photo that I found from the internet that I think would be really, really amazing to deliver. So that's what I pulled to help with that. Hopefully that design looks appealing. I think it's pretty amazing. So that's what we're aiming for. And this is what we started with. So how are we going to get there? Well, first of all, like I said, we started with a pretty good base. Now, the train itself, couple of things. One, It is drivable. It does have an actual engine in it. It's not a train engine. It's a 454, but it's a very powerful engine. So there's a lot of mechanic work that we've been doing to get the mechanics so that it can drive on its own. It's exceedingly heavy. I went to tow it with my truck and found that if I had hooked up my truck to that, and I have a full-size Tundra, it would rip the tongue off my truck. So we had to work out another solution to actually get it over to Xanadu. And that does mean that it is something that there will be a need for a fairly robust vehicle to actually tow this down. Once it's down where at the MK Center where it can then enter the parade route, it can drive on its own, or at least that's what we're anticipating by this week. The mechanic should have that all working, which could be super hilarious to drive around the neighborhood a little bit and kind of, get people really excited. So I'm going to pause here because I'm going to insert some video and then do a little bit of narration mode over the top of it. But if you look at what we started with, what we're aiming for, and here in a little bit, I'll kind of give you a rundown on how we're going to get there, especially within an extremely tight budget, and how you guys will end up with something pretty iconic in the parade. So I'm going to pause, like I said, and then I'll pull up some video. So here we have a quick video just to see where we're at currently. You can see we've stripped down the frame. It's wooden, so that gives you an idea of some of the challenges we're going to be working with. I did a little capture of the shop so you can see what we're working with there. So there's a lot to be said for what has been done, and a lot about where we're going to go. So I want to get to a point where you guys are comfortable with knowing it's going to get completed, but how are we going to get there? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. All right, so let me skip back over to this. So if we look at the final product here, and we saw the wooden portion of the body, what we're challenges currently at is, first of all, stripping everything down and kind of exposing what's there. And then kind of trying to decide what we're going to do for materials. So we've spent a lot of time on the chassis, inside the wireframe, all the structural stuff, and we feel pretty confident on where it's at. So I'm going to start with the body of the train, the black cylinder piece, which comprises the primary body. And what we were going to do originally is try to rework with the wood that's there. Just wrap that to the frame. There's a metal, very heavy lattice metal frame on the inside. We've rebuilt some of that and wire wrap to that to kind of solidify it. In the interest of time, I just don't think that's going to work. It's going to be a little weird. Some of the pieces aren't going to match up well. And I think when you try to make it look like, a contiguous piece without holes and things like that, it's just not going to look super great. So I got a hold of Pacific Steel, and I've asked them to come up with some 24 gauge sheet metal that we can clamshell a piece on either side. So if you look at, for example, that gold and that red piece, so there'd be a piece down where the wheels are that would come up, and then it would meet at halfway point on the top there, and then there'd be a similar piece on the other side, and they would come up. We would metal screw those down, and we would essentially wrap it in 24 gauge metal. So that is a more expensive option, but I'm working with Pacific Steel. They've been amazing partners for Xanadu for many years. Shout out to Ben Nye. He's been a great supporter of Xanadu, and that affords us the ability to get some pretty good deals, a lot of work, some donated stuff, and really make them a solid partner. And that can convey over to working with materials that would otherwise be pretty expensive, but should be able to be worked into the budget. Likewise, I like the idea of continuing that thought process with the metal around the pistons that are in the front there, the kind of gold. So wrapping those in probably flashing sheet metal. We have a nibbler and some shears and an English wheel. So we should be able to work with the metal to shape around those. That'll give us a smooth, nice metal. Same thing on the front. Now the top pieces, we're looking at, those are made primarily out of a part metal frame, a little bit of styrofoam for shaping, stuff like that. So those are legacy. In the interest of time, just because I just don't see how we're going to have enough unless we get a bunch of volunteers, to pull those down and replicate them in refreshed material. They are so sparkly, but the problem with it is it pokes out pretty far. So when you try to surface it to look smooth, it actually just looks like like orange peel wall. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's just a lot of texture. That doesn't look appealing. It doesn't look like the metal. It looks odd. So we're working with either covering them in resin or multi-layers of paint. That way we can smooth it out, then paint over it with metallic. And that's just, again, in the interest of time and the budget, so we can reuse what we've got, so we're not spending there. And I think we're going to probably be able to come up with something fairly doable. It's mostly for theatrics and just distant appeal, so we should be able to come up with a theater version of that. The smokestack, I think similarly, we're going to wrap in a material that then is smooth so that we can make it look metallic and paint it over with the same body paint that we're using on the cylinder. And my hope is the smokestack, we actually have the ability to put smoke out of that, which I think is pretty fun. We're going to try for red, white, and blue smoke. I think that would be really nice for the fourth tie-in, since this is the 250th anniversary. On the sides, you'll notice in the sparkle train, there's a little star flags on the sides. I'm going to turn those into American flags on either side. And, that way we can tie in some additional United States 250th. On the front, the grill, we are stripping the grill down. It is metal, but we're having to use some pretty aggressive tactics to get that sparkle stuff is just absolutely adhered to that frame. So we've spent, quite a number of hours with using some tools that actually grind that off and smooth it down. So I think we've got it pretty good. We've got some side stuff to do in between, but we should be able to finish that. And then a nice coat of red paint will wrap that up. The wheels are not true to form, but they are nicely shaped. So I think if we put some additional hubcap, we had to pull off the styrofoam hubcaps to get rid of the sparkles. So we're dealing with a little bit of it not looking perfectly clean, but I think we can clean that up and get those done. Same thing with the smaller wheels. And then I wouldn't mind if we had time tying those pistons in with those rods. You can see the rods come out and then they go all the way back and then across the tires, which is how the tires on a train rotate. So we're going to see if we can put that in there. And then all the aesthetic things with the bands of gold and each of the components that come with that, I think those are things that we can just add to kind of tie it all together. One of our artists is going to try and make an actual light for the top. I think that would be really cool. It's just a styrofoam looking thing and it's kind of chintzy. But he should be able to come up with something that actually has glass and is a true light. And I think that'll really add to some of the uniqueness effect. And then that leaves us with the conductors area. And the conductors area, it's mostly wood, so it's just going to be some outline framing with wood with some really nice wood grain. We are going to have to pull off the existing material. It's pretty degraded. Lots of staples. I mean, just tons and tons of sparkle attached to that thing. So we're going to reframe it, put some new wood on it. Again, we're trying to work around the budget, see if we can get some of those materials donated or sourced, or we have a pretty good set in the wood shop. So all of that we should be able to work within what we have available. And now it's just a matter of if we have enough volunteers and time. Unfortunately, I do work full time. Xanadu is not my job. We are pretty much funded by a couple of people, and so we just here as a support organization. But like I said, we have a lot of people to pull in. It just means I'm not necessarily available. And that I'm also gone from the 23rd through the 5th, 23rd of May through the 5th of June, for cybersecurity out of town, which means I will be unavailable. But my goal is to make every portion of this, and how it's going to be built and accomplished and the connections with Pacific Steel and everything readily available so that I'm not necessary. It can all get done without me here. We do have some people that I have engaged with at Xanadu that are somewhat the foreman. And we have a master welder. She's amazing. So I'll see if I can rope her in. That way there's some leadership here and, you aren't left without, some people to ensure that this just continues forward. I will be available in the evenings to answer questions and try to ensure that you guys aren't left without some progress. But unfortunately, you know how work goes, so that's a thing. So I really hope this has helped kind of clarify where we're at, why we're here, what we're doing, how we're getting involved. Now, again, I can't emphasize enough the excitement. I mentioned budget and I mentioned that Xanadu's not hired for this, but I want to point out that if you really look at this, if this train were to be built and hired out, it would be 23,000 ish dollars, $25,000. So really what's happening here is Simplot is sponsoring a $25,000 art project for the community. So that's how we look at it at Xanadu. They've sponsored this amazing art project, provided a budget for us to draw off of to get materials to help build it. And that's put something out into the community that allows people to come have so much fun on. We've already had a lot of people here on weekends and weekdays, evenings, things like that, working on this pretty nonstop to get it where it's at. And people are really having a good time. They're super excited. People are stopping by constantly. We did put a social media blast out on the North End group and Boise Bench to call for volunteers. So we got people biking by, we got people driving by. So thank you. I think this is really cool, and I'm really looking forward to transforming it from the Dallas Cowboy look and sparkle adventure that, that we started with out in a pasture, to something that self-drives and it looks something akin to Hogwarts Express, in my opinion. Super, super cool. So with that said, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot. I just made this video because it's sometimes easier to convey pictures and where we're at. It is a private video, so you don't have to worry about me bumbling something out there. You're welcome to share it if you'd like. I just don't want you thinking that I'm making this and it's just getting out into the world. So I have kept it in a privacy setting there. So feel free to ask questions. Look forward to working with you guys.